Hi again. You know who we are, Marone Klein and Louise Yochi Klein.
In this video, we'll show you how to read your EnQ 360 Leadership Assessment Report, how to mine it for insights and calls to action, and how to use it to get ready for your insight interview with your Courage Coach so you build your individual development plan. You'll need your EnQ 360 Leadership Assessment Report, which you should find in your one-to-one coaching portal or in your email inbox, with the passcode to download the file or open the PDF. If you don't yet have your 360 feedback report, contact your Courage Coach and ask when your report will be ready. You can pause this video to make sure you have your EnQ 360 feedback report in front of you, and then we can continue.
Got your 360 report? So Bava. That's what we'll guide you through in this video. So page 1 of your report gives you an overview of the feedback process. It explains what we hope you'll get from the report and how we hope you'll use the report as a springboard to action and growth. If you follow the steps we outline in this video and that we describe in the report, you should come away with a picture of your strengths and weaknesses, blind spots, and growth areas. A strength is a leadership behavior or cluster of leadership behaviors where raters scored you 5 or above, and where you also scored yourself 5 or above on a 6-point scale. A weakness is a leadership behavior or cluster of leadership behaviors where raters scored you 3.8 or lower.
A blind spot is where your raters scored you lower than you scored yourself, suggesting that you think you're performing well on that behavior or group of behaviors, and your raters think you're not as good or not as consistent as you rated yourself. And a growth area is a leadership behavior or cluster of leadership behaviors where raters scored you lower than you wanted them to score you, or where the ratings were inconsistent, high for some raters and lower than you expected from other raters. A weakness is a growth area if you want to make improvements and get better at that behavior or cluster of behaviors. And every one of those leadership behaviors can be learned, practiced, and converted into a strength if you want to lift your game. But a weakness can also be a weakness you decide to live with and, hopefully, hire someone alongside you who will exhibit the strengths that you lack if you don't want to lift your game. Page 2 of your EnQ describes the 60 behaviors that were included in your EnQ leadership assessment, along with any additional items that your organization asked us to include. 40 of the courage-building behaviors are power-up behaviors. A high score of 5 or 6 on these 40 behaviors means that your rater said you exhibit these behaviors to a very high extent.
20 of the behaviors in the survey are leadership practices that power down courage. A high score on these 20 negative, derailing, risk-averse behaviors means that your raters said you do not exhibit these behaviors. So to earn high scores on the 5 A's, your raters would say, yes, you exhibit power-up behaviors to a very high extent. And they would say, no, you don't exhibit power-down, derailing behaviors, not at all.
In this report, the 60 behaviors are grouped into 5 super competencies, the 5 A's. These are the A's that make courage contagious. To the north, aim high. Do you show the business acumen to focus on what really makes an impact and makes your business successful, inspire others to join you in that sense of purpose, and provide feedback so people can see how successful the team is and what they're contributing?
To the east, arouse passion. Are you energizing? Are you a leader who builds resilience and urgency in yourself and people around you? Do people feel more joyful, invigorated, confident, and pumped up being in your presence?
Looking deep, ask openly. Are you a leader who's curious, learning, and who is open to feedback, and who gets others around you to be open, coachable, and agile enough to take new perspectives from diverse players on board and challenge themselves to do better?
To the south, align interests for win-win-win collaborations. Are you a leader who builds trust so people come together as a team and take the risk of putting we ahead of me?
And to the west, adhere to disciplines, plans, and rigor. Are you a leader who gets people to take pride in what they're doing and pay attention to details for quality, safety, cost effectiveness, and a good user experience where things work as they should?
On page 3, you'll find 6 questions, which is what we hope you'll take away from this 360 report. We encourage you to bookmark this page and keep making notes about these 6 questions as you go through the report. Your report itself is confidential, as is your conversation with your courage coach, unless there's a subpoena or a threat that could put the organization, your safety, or other people's safety at risk. But other than that, no one needs to see your ratings, except you. The insights you got from your feedback and what you plan to do with those insights, which is what we ask with the questions on page 3, that's what will encourage you to share with people around you who can contribute to your growth.
Page 4 tells you how many raters responded to your request for 360 feedback by category. Page 5 lists the raters you nominated, and that brings us to page 6, which starts to give you the results of your 360 survey. Marone?
On page 6, you'll see a spider or radar chart with your average scores from all of your raters on the 5 A's. High scores are a distance from the center, and low scores are plotted near the center of the circle. You'll see the average score from all of your raters on aim toward the north. You'll see the average score on arouse and ask on the east side of the radar chart. And you'll see adhere and align toward the west side with align to the south and adhere to the west.
At a glance, this radar chart tells you whether some of the 5 A's are outstanding strengths and whether some are areas for growth or improvement. Take a quick look to identify your high and low scores so you see which super competencies you want to take a deeper dive into and investigate more. And we encourage you, starting with this page, to make notes about what you see using the comment feature on your PDF reader and to highlight your strengths. Greater than 5.0 in green, any weaknesses that are lower than 3.8 in pink, and moderate scores in yellow, noting what's relatively high and what's relatively low for you.
Pages 7, 8, and 9 take you into a deeper dive on each of these 5 A's. It shows you how each category of raters scored you on the 5 power up A's and on the 5 power down A's. Here's an example of one leader's scores on the 5 A's, whom we've called Donna Dugma. The overview shows Donna scored herself very high, almost all 6s, for an average of 5.83 on her overall self-rating. But the ratings from other categories were over 1 full point lower on the 6-point scale.
If you were Donna, you probably want to know where raters scored you highest and where the largest discrepancies are, and talk with your courage coach about your superpowers and the discrepancies where there's room for improvement. First, the superpowers. Not only did Donna's AIM score come out highest, as we saw in her radar chart, it was consistently high, over 5.0 for all of her rater categories. Thinking strategically about the business, knowing what drives success, conveying a sense of purpose, and setting goals for the team are clearly areas where Donna excels, and where all of the rater categories agree that she excels.
Now the discrepancies. You'll see there are a number of categories where Donna's average was close to 4.1, with a standard deviation greater than 1, which means that a large number of raters saw her at 3 or lower. And there's one where her boss rated her as low as 4.0, which is very different from the 6.0 rater that Donna gave herself. Look at Donna's discrepancy on align and on ask. These scores suggest Donna has a few blind spots and needs to do better at getting her own direct reports to open up with candor and getting them to trust each other enough to find win-win-win solutions for the good of the team. and she should continue her deep dive looking at the specific behaviors in those categories that scored lower than she rated herself.
So that's the kind of analysis we'd suggest that you do with your report. Look at your superpowers, where there's consistency amongst raters about what you do well. And look at the categories of raters who are flagging areas for improvement, close to 4.0 or even in the negative range below 4.0, where you can do a deeper dive about what to do better and with whom, whether it's peers, direct reports, bosses, or in other categories. And that brings us to the next level of an even deeper deep dive in your report, starting on page 10, which gives you an item-by-item, behavior-by-behavior breakdown of what your raters said about you.
So if you were Donna, you might scroll down to the Aligned section of your survey, and you'd flag several behaviors that your direct report said, hey friend, you could stand to lift your game in this area. Like trusting colleagues enough to share power and control, which scored a low 2.6 with a standard deviation greater than 1 point on a 6-point rating scale. Or contributing to the learning, growth, and development of colleagues, which scored 3.0 with an even higher standard deviation. Or micromanaging people, which again scored 3.0. These would be the kind of ratings we'd explore with Donna as her courage coaches to find out what's going on from her perspective, how to get unstuck, and how to put things with her team on a more positive growth trajectory.
So for you, do a deep dive in the A's that most need your focus and attention, and with the groups where you most want to improve your impact, and identify the behaviors that are flagged as areas for improvement. And then go on to the next section of your report and read through the comments, which were captured verbatim by the system without any editing, any AI content analysis, or commentary about what people shared with you. This could add some color or detail about the superpowers you flagged and about the areas for improvement that you flagged.
The whole point of 360 feedback is to help you reduce your blind spots and increase your self-awareness. So as you go through your report page by page, compare your self-ratings with the ratings others gave you. If you gave yourself a higher rating than other raters, avoid the temptation to react like a victim and blame them for not liking you, for bias, for not giving you enough support, for not appreciating how hard you're trying and how good you really are. Avoid the temptation to think about I know who said this and I'm going to get them for putting that comment in. Those feelings may be true, but the best use of your 360 data is taking charge and asking, how can I close the gaps, rather than shutting down and getting angry or upset about your ratings.
To close the gaps, you've got to own the ratings you got, even the disappointing ones. Rather than looking backward, look forward toward people, places, and things where you can put more positive ratings into practice. We know it can sting and be embarrassing to get harsher ratings than you expected and imagined that you deserved. We feel you're hurt. The courage question is what to do with the hurt. We hope it powers up desire to learn, explore better possibilities, and grow, not just stay stuck, justifying where you are now and where your raters are now.
Remember, a 360 feedback isn't destiny. It isn't a character attack or a life sentence. It's a point in time that describes perceptions, which you have the power and the opportunity to change if you take charge, step up, and lean in. If you want to make those improvements, imagine future situations where you could act in a way that would earn you higher ratings with specific people, in specific places, and in work on specific things where you could build more courage and make a difference.
The point isn't to be a victim of 360 ratings. It's to take charge, to make more of your superpowers accessible in trying situations, and expand your leadership repertoire.
If your raters gave you more positive ratings than you gave yourself, you might ask what's going on that's making you so hard on yourself. Are you holding yourself to a higher standard and trying to get some of your raters to embrace higher standards as well? Is it imposter syndrome that reduces your confidence and joy even when you should be celebrating your success? Reflect on what the difference in ratings might mean and talk with your courage coach in your insight interview. Through this all, we'll encourage you to go from abstract to concrete, from data points to insight, from insight to action. And we'll start with what the ratings say and ask, so what do they mean for you and the impact you and your enterprise should achieve? We'll then ask you to imagine what if you had better opportunities to step up and make a difference, and then commit to now what, so you use the insights you get from your 360 report.
There are also a few supplemental analysis pages in your report, which can help you wade through the data and mine the data for insights, affirmations, and calls to action. One is an analysis of your biggest blind spots, the specific behaviors where your self-ratings were most different from the ratings you received from your raters. And another is a list of the 60 behaviors, ranked from your highest scoring items to your lowest scoring items. So we wish you some great insights from your 360 report. With your Courage coaches, we'll look forward to seeing what you've highlighted in green, pink, and yellow, and the notes you've made about the ratings you received from your boss or board, your reports, peers, and if you included them, your customers or external partners.
And most of all, we look forward to the insights you capture on page 3, the page we told you to bookmark and use to crystallize your insights from the 360 report. Because that's where we'll want to start your insight interview when we get together to talk about what you learned about your impact and what more you'd like the opportunity to do to lift your courage and the courage of your teams so you take your success to the next level.